Yeah, we've got
They would
to.
really be happy with.
You
You
mean
mean
it's
it's
on
taking
now?
us now?
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Oh, boy.
goodness, we
Picture.
forgot to
You
smile.
better, you better. Well, it's still going.
Yeah.
It's sitting here taking your picture right now.
Well, he's taking yours too, isn't he?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And how ugly, whoo, boy.
Smile, look pretty, VanZandt.
You a member of First Baptist Church here in town?
Yes,
Good. That's good.
and I've been reading my Bible all evening.
You get to go pretty regular, or is it hard for you?
Yes, David comes by to get me every Sunday morning
That's
and we
great.
go.
That's great.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
makes church.
That's
I
right.
never miss church. I said,
So
when I
far,
get
she's
to
able
go
to go
to church,
to
I'm
church,
sure
thank
enough on.
goodness. Well, she couldn't get to go to church and read her Bible. Oh, man.
Oh,
She'd die.
I'd be ready for the granger.
Yeah. It's Billy, David told her, says, Mama said, I hope you live till you're 90 years old. And Nelwyn said, now wait a minute, says, I don't know whether the Lord wants me to stay here that long or not.
Yeah, he said he prayed, my son said he prayed that I'd live at least to be 90 years old.
Mhm.
I said, David, the Lord said he wouldn't put upon us any burden that we can't bear. And I said, if I get 90 years old, I'd have such burdens I couldn't bear them.
Well, I'm deterred. I don't think I can bear it. Oh, boy. No, I have. I went downhill
Well, I
the
have
last
too.
3 months and it's pitiful.
David, they would go home and say, boy, no, they're pretty near gone. To hear them talk.
Well, I don't know
Well,
how long
when
the
the
Lord's
Lord
gonna
gets-
put up with me,
When the
but
Lord gets ready for us, he'll take us home
That's right.
to
That's right.
be with him throughout eternity.
Y'all still got a lot to do down here. A lot
Well,
of
as
people
long as
to
we're down
influence.
here, we try to live a good life, don't we?
oh, well, I try to. Of course, the Bible says all people are they sin.
Oh, yes, we're all
Regardless, I
sinners
don't know.
before the Lord saves us.
There's never been but one on earth that's lived without sinning.
That's Jesus.
That was Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And
That's right.
we all sin, just like Graham said the other day. He said, now we're all sinners, and we're only saved by the grace
Grace of
of
God.
Jesus Christ.
And the wonderful thing, when we become Christians, he removes our sins as far as the east is from the west, and buries them in the depths of the sea, and remembers against us no more.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's wonderful,
great,
isn't it? To
That's
think he
great.
forgives our sins and removes them from us, and doesn't even remember them.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great,
good.
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want him to
All this-
remember all my
this-
sins, would
this-
you?
Well, I'll tell you, this world is, well, it's not the world, it's the people that's in it. They're getting so wicked. Oh,
Yes, they
oh,
are.
it's awful to think that what's going on nowadays.
Yeah. Nelwyn, tell me what kind of little brother Pawpaw was when y'all were growing up.
Well, he and I we were like two peas in a pod. We associated with each other all the time, and anytime we ever had anything to discuss, we discussed it between us. We were what you'd call chums,
Mhm.
more than Martin and I are my younger brothers.
Really?
And we were just really chums, weren't we, VanZandt?
We
And
was.
anything come up,
No.
we used to say, Dad and Mama tried to tell us how to be saved. And VanZandt and I'd go off and talk about it, and we'd say, well, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to be saved. If we only knew how, we'd be saved.
Mhm.
And they'd tell us, how they were saved and everything. And we'd go off and discuss it. All things like that we discussed together.
I'll bet.
We little kids,
like peas
we
in a
didn't
pod.
know, we lived in the backwoods.
Yeah, we didn't
And,
know anything much, but
We didn't know anything much
and all we knew is pick cotton and gather corn
and
and
hoe.
hoe
Oh,
cotton and
boy,
corn
I
and
tell
set
you.
out sweet potatoes and gather them, and tomatoes and gather them, and that's all we knew.
And the only way you could see any distance was straight up.
Yeah, we
Trees
lived out on the
everywhere,
farm.
Yeah.
That's the only way we
everywhere.
could see anything is straight up.
Oh,
That is
we-
any distance at
Oh,
all.
we enjoyed life and had a good time.
Oh, we had
We thought we
I
were,
enjoyed it, and
We
we
thought-
all had a big
we
time.
thought we lived in a
We
mansion.
entertained ourselves in those days. We didn't have to be entertained. What little time we had with that we wasn't. But Dad,
Working.
we always said that Dad was the best child entertainer that ever was.
Oh, he
could put
was. He
One of
got
them
out and
little-
played the ball with these boys. Don't you remember how he played ball with them?
Is that right?
Yeah, he played ball with them on Sunday evenings.
Mhm.
They'd get out and play ball, baseball,
Yeah.
and he'd play with
But
them.
I'll tell you one thing, you wasn't supposed to holler very loud or anything on Sunday. Deb, the boy, he didn't allow
sacred
no
like.
extra racket, no sirree. He was very religious that way.
Yeah, he was, and he'd read his Bible. He got where he didn't go to Sunday school and church with
Well,
us.
he couldn't put his
Because
mother.
He would,
He
several
had that heart
times he'd
trouble.
at church and he'd fall over just like he's dying, nearly scare us to death. You know, get with all these people and breathe in the air that they breathe and everything, kind of
just couldn't-
smothered.
he couldn't
And he'd
stand
just
to be
fall
in a
over and they'd
crowd.
have to carry
No.
him out.
Yeah.
And so he quit going when Martin got big enough to drive. And he turned the driving over to Martin, my older brother. And he'd stay home, but I remember every Sunday morning he'd go out on the porch with his Bible, reading his Bible.
Mhm.
And he read the Bible through. And VanZandt,
He'd always listened well, what was his name? There used to be First Baptist Church.
Norris.
Norris,
Norris.
Frank Norris.
Yeah.
Boy,
Norris.
he would listen to Frank Norris.
Oh, and
oh.
Mama did too. They
Really?
thought-
Yeah, they thought Frank Norris was.
Just like we do Billy Graham now.
See,
Yeah.
that's the church that I work for.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
it
the
was?
Norris's old
Yeah,
church.
that's the
Oh,
same
is that,
church.
is that right?
First Baptist
Yeah.
Fort Worth.
Well, how wonderful.
He's assistant pastor of that church now.
Well, that's wonderful.
I work
Yeah.
with a lot of folks that are y'all's age that were
Uh-huh.
in the church when Norris was
Are they
pastor.
as crippled as we are?
Well, they're up in years. One lady's 90 or 91, and but they
Well,
have a lot of good memories.
mhm. I like to talk to older people, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, he's
They're
telling me about
knowledgeable
this old
sometimes.
lady, and she's 91 years old. She still mows her own yard with them old rotary type mowers,
My
old time
goodness.
mowers.
Well,
And how in the world she keeps it sharp enough to mow her yard, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Well, I don't know either.
Strong leg.
'Cause I couldn't get mine mowed. I couldn't walk out in the yard on it.
How old were y'all when you moved in from, what was it, Hazel to Roanoke?
Roanoke, let's see.
Well,
I was teaching school at Hazel. And I transferred then over to Roanoke. I was 27 when I started teaching.
well, I was 24 now when I moved to Roanoke.
Was
I
that
married
right?
that. I married
Well,
that fall.
Well, I must have been, I'm about 2 years older than you.
Yeah, you're nearly 2 years
So
older.
I'd be 26 or 27,
Yeah,
somewhere along
you'd be
there.
26
Uh-huh, yeah.
yeah, you was 26 now.
And,
Because we moved to Roanoke, that is Dad, and you all moved over there in,
and you stayed there with Lorene and finished up
and Joe and I
business.
and Lorene, we finished gathering the
gathering the
crop
crop and,
and
then we moved
gathered
later.
we had a lot of pecans that year and
Yeah.
all them sweet potatoes, we had to dig them. We had all the cows to milk, and we had to churn the butter. And the first time I ever started churning the butter, after Dad now moved to Roanoke, we churned twice
had
a
a
week.
barrel. We would
And-
turn
and,
right away.
Had a big old barrel out in the yard, and we turned that, and so I went in and it wasn't doing right, and I poured a lot of hot water in there, and it looked like cotton. Well, I come back out, and started turning, I forgot to tighten the lid down.
Oh, no. it
That
did
butter
it
went all
out.
over the ground.
Oh,
So
my.
I went in the next day in Fort Worth with my vegetables and everything, and I went around, I sure did hate it. I told him, I said, well, we're moving this week, and I says, we won't have no butter today, but I said, we'll have some Friday. Boy, that white stuff, I mean, it went all over the yard. Oh, brother.
No,
But it
money.
was a good thing, because I'd already ruined the butter anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
guess
brother,
that
I'll
was
tell
right.
you.
Lost all your money on it.
You name it, I've done it. Oh, boy.
You mean that thing's still taking pictures of us? Won't it be
It's,
funny looking?
it's on you mostly, it's not on me. I see it, it's over there on you. Come on over here. Come on over here.
Well, you
No,
come,
it's
you
on
come
all
on
of us.
over.
It's on all of us.
Yeah.
See if he's got me now. You come over here so he can get you.
Oh, Lord.
See here.
I guess we just use
Yeah.
this will be.
Y'all, you taught school?
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, she taught school here.
Did you teach in that old school at Roanoke?
No, I taught at Hazel,
Hazel.
several years before we married. before we moved.
Yeah.
And then I taught at Euless, I've taught all over the place.
I see.
And I taught at Aledo, and I taught at Rye Vista down in Cleveland.
Mhm.
And I taught at Mineral Wells 6 years, and I taught here 1 year. And I just taught all over the place. Whenever my husband would be moved different places, he worked for the Gulf Oil, and he moved down close to Cleveland, so I went down there.
Yeah.
And then when he worked up here, I taught at Mineral Wells and taught here some.
Did you meet your husband after y'all moved to Roanoke?
When did I meet him?
Well, you was teaching at Brock, I think, when you met him. Did you teach at Brock?
In Brock?
I thought you taught at Brock. See, that's where Norman used to live.
I knew he lived there.
Well,
I think I substituted out there some, but I didn't teach there.
oh, you didn't?
But,
Well,
I
where
was,
did you
I
meet
was,
him?
I was 31 when I married, and he was 32.
Well, when did you meet him? Where did you meet him?
When I was teaching at Lido.
Oh, is that
He
right?
had broke up with his girlfriend that he was going to, and I had gone with somebody there in Lido, and we had broken up. So somebody put us together then and said, well, they've both broken up with their mates they've been going with, so let's introduce them to each other. So his cousin introduced Norman and me together. And when I first saw Norman, I didn't like him too much because he didn't have much to say. But the man that introduced me to him, which was his cousin, he talked the Blue Street. And I thought, well, wonder why they wouldn't introduce me to him instead of Norman, because he was a talker, you know. But he is already going with somebody, see. So he introduced me to Norman because he felt sorry for Norman for his girlfriend, him breaking up. So he thought maybe he could go, I'd go with him then. So Norman, he's about like me. He said, well, I think he told his cousin, says, I think she's a nice girl, but says, I'm through with women, because his girlfriend had broke up with him, you know. I'm through with women. And so he said, well, she's a nice girl, all right. And he's telling his cousin, you know, that introduced him to me. And he said, well, what do you think about her? Well, she's a nice girl, all right, but I'm through with women. And it wasn't very long till he called me.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to know if I'd like to go on a date with him or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, well, yes. I wasn't too thrilled either, VanZandt, because I'll tell you what I was doing. I was fixing to go to seminary. Is that what the preacher
Is
said?
that right?
I
Yeah.
was fixing to go to seminary that summer. I'd heard about people from seminary so long. I thought, well, that's a good Christian place. I believe I'll go to seminary and maybe I'd find a Christian husband. So I wasn't too familiar and wasn't too happy with going with Norman.
Yeah.
After he asked me, because I thought, well, now, while I'm down here this summer, I may meet some good Christian man, and I might marry a good Christian man from the seminary.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote him a letter, and Oprah read it, and she said, now, that's no fit letter to write to a friend. Says, make it more personal than that. So I wrote the letter over, and it thrilled Norman. I don't think I said very much. I just said I enjoyed meeting you, and I hope I get to see you again, or something like that, you know. So that thrilled Norman, because the first one I wrote, I didn't say anything like that. You know, I just said, well, thank you. I'm sorry I met you. I'm not sorry I met you. I'm glad I met you, and I hope someday I'll see you again, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then he called me, and I don't know if I'd go on a date with him.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a long time to really like him,
Yeah.
because he wasn't a very good talker. I mean, he never was, even after we married, you know.
Yeah.
He'd say what he wanted to say, and that was it.
Yeah. No.
And we were married
Norman was a
52
good old
years.
boy, though.
We married 52 years, so we got along just fine.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have perfect marriage,
Yeah.
but we got along just fine.
That's
52
great.
I don't
years.
reckon there was a perfect
I
marriage,
don't
reckon.
think so. Is yours
Now,
perfect, David?
there's no two people that can see everything the same
What's your
24 hours a day for year in and year out.
What's
Yeah.
your wife's name?
Cindy,
Cindy.
Mhm.
That's a pretty name.
she sings and plays the piano at
Oh,
the church.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a good
Oh,
pianist.
isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, she sings at the church.
Oh, I just love somebody who knows music.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
She sings in a trio and stuff, and so.
That's just good.
Oh, good man.
Is this still going on?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
VanZandt,
we're
it's
gonna have to.
15 more minutes before 3 o'clock.
Yeah, but, David's got
Why
to be
didn't you
back
come
at
earlier
4.
so you could stay longer?
Well, we went over to, went over to see Lorraine.
Mhm.
And then we went down to Fur's to eat dinner.
Mhm.
And then we come on up here and went by Tom. We didn't stay there more than
Just a few minutes.
20 minutes, I don't reckon, or
They doing
20
all
or
right,
25.
Tom and his one?
Yeah, they doing pretty good.
Good.
They was over to home one day last week. I forgot what day it was. They were over there to home, and so I called you this morning, but David said, well, says, I don't know, says, you right sure they'll be at home? I said, well, sometimes she goes and gets groceries or medicine. I said, maybe I better call her, so she'll be there.
How do you think I can go into a place that don't have a card?
Yeah, but David takes you.
Yeah, David takes
He
me when I
comes by, when
really need to go.
he comes every day and sees
Yeah,
that.
he comes every day. Calls me
Sam,
every morning, he
Sam.
comes every evening.
I know she got a new fence out here.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
Oh boy, that looks nifty.
Yeah.
I've been wondering about that fence.
Well, I've been wondering about it ever since,
Say the devil.
even before Norman passed away, see, it needed it real bad
Yeah,
then.
I
It's
know.
been 4 years, this August that he passed away, and I've been trying to fix it ever since. It was all
Did David do that or
falling
you
down.
hired it done?
No, we hired it done, cost me $300.
Oh no. Well, how much did you put down? Just around from the.
Just the garage around it, is all. But he fixed it deep.
Well, say, did they ever fix this out here?
Yeah, they fixed it, but not real good.
Oh,
You
they
know, I
didn't
took
come
it-
back? They didn't come back?
They didn't come back to fix it. I
Is
showed
that right?
VanZandt after they fixed it, see, they run into my fence.
Oh.
We'd had it 15 years, nobody had ever run into it. And they have a little yard over here, and they have all kinds of cars there, and they back out right into my fence.
Trailers and everything else.
They have trailers
Mm.
and those big old vans, what do you call them, those big vans?
They run into our chain fence
They
out
run
here.
into it and knocked it all down, and they like to never fixed it. Oh, we'll fix it. And so they didn't fix it very good, and it's not straight, and it's not steady, you know.
I know, we was out there looking.
But I
at
was
it.
glad I fixed it up.
They never did come back and do any
No,
more
they
to it.
didn't do anything.
Well, I'll leave that.
I think they left it that way, VanZandt, in case they run
Run
into
into
it
it
again. It
again.
won't be very hard to fix. All they do,
Right.
stick the post down and put a little dirt around
Mhm. They didn't put it in cement or
it.
anything.
I don't think so.
No, they didn't, I can tell they didn't.
Yeah, you know, and out and investigated.
Yeah, I know, they didn't,
Yeah,
they didn't fix that fence good.
No.
Papa was telling me earlier about y'all's granddad. His name was Martin?
Yeah,
Martin Parish, that was in the Civil War.
yeah, he was in the Civil War.
You remember him very well?
I didn't know my father's
No, we never
father.
did see
We
him.
never
Oh,
did know
really?
him. It was my mother's father that we knew. And
that's the only grandparents
Only
we ever knew
grandparent,
was Grandpa
And
Carter.
oh, VanZandt and I just loved him. He'd come to see us, David, and we'd fuss who's gonna sit by his knee. And we'd say, this is my knee. And VanZandt would say, well, this one's my knee. And Martin would want a knee, and of course he only had two.
Yeah.
And we'd fuss about who's gonna have his knee, you know, sit by him.
Mm.
Oh, we thought that granddad was the grandest person that ever lived, didn't we?
Well, we didn't have but one
just
grandparent,
one
and that was
grandparent.
him. That's the only one
Oh,
that's
he-
living when we were born.
Yeah, he's the only one that's living.
Yeah.
Oh, we thought he was made out of
Yeah,
gold.
We never knew anything about a grandma. We didn't have no grandma.
No. Grandma
Oh, they were
died
passed
about
away.
1 year after Mama died. I mean, she died 1 year after Mama married.
Grandma Carter?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mhm.
1 year.
Well, now, Grandma Parish
She
died
died
way back
when
there.
Dad was young. He was
Yeah,
only
Dad was only, I think, only
about
15.
9. I don't
15,
know,
wasn't
maybe
he?
he's about 9. He was just
Well,
a
I
young
think
boy.
He was 15, I
Well,
don't
maybe he
know.
was, but
I
I
don't
thought-
remember just how, but I was
he
thinking,
was real young then.
David, it's a blinker, and is it out?
No, that just means it's recording.
Are they taking your picture too?
No.
You would put it on
Oh,
us.
David, you need to sit over
You
here.
sit over here and let us have your
I'm
picture.
fine. I'm fine. I just
Oh,
wanted
why don't you put it over here so we can
Was,
see you too?
was y'all's Grandpa Carter, was he in the Civil War too?
Yeah,
Yes,
he was a
he
musician,
is a
wasn't he?
musician,
Oh.
played.
I'm gonna get some oxygen before we
Yeah.
start home.
Go ahead.
Grandpa Parish got shot at. He was behind a tree, and he was in the army, and they shot at him, and he was behind the tree, and he had on a hat, and they shot through his hat, but they didn't hit him.
And they
He
peeled
nearly
the,
died.
they peeled that little tree though that he's laying by. You see, his horse got scared. He was in the cavalryman. His horse got scared, you know, and he run away. And he threw Grandpa by that little old tree and kind of crippled. He couldn't walk. The way I understood it. And he fired one shot at just before he got to the enemy line. He fired one shot. And he said, I don't know how many shots he fired. Said, when they quit shooting, said there wasn't a piece of bark on that little old tree. And he said that was the bloodiest battle that he'd ever seen in his life. And he laid there all that time because he couldn't get up on his feet. And that's the only thing that he said, the only thing that he knew that saved his life.
Wonder if he looks like Dad. Wonder if his
I don't know, Nelwyn. We don't
didn't
have
have any
no
pictures of the
picture
mother?
Uh-uh.
Mother or
Wasn't he like a captain or something?
Huh?
When Grandpa Parish, wasn't he a?
I don't know what he was in the service. Do you, VanZandt?
I thought you was telling me one time he was a captain.
Grandpa Parish. Was he a
David,
captain?
I don't remember. Did I ever
Okay.
say that?
I was thinking you told me that one time, but I may be wrong.
He might have been if he was on a
He might have
horse,
been, but I don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
that I
We
ever
didn't hear very much
knew
about
what he
him.
was. We never did know too much about Dad's folks.
No.
Yeah,
we
but
didn't.
he's the one,
You know, he never did go back. After the Civil War was over, he ended up down there below Fort Worth, you know,
Mhm.
and he never did go back to his family at all. And see, he come and
You
get
mean
up.
Grandpa Parish didn't?
No, Grandpa Parish never did go back.
I didn't know it. I thought he was.
Yeah, no, he never did go back to his folks or nothing.
He used
He
to
said
go
the
to,
only way that you could travel in was by horse, and he never did go back.
well, Dad was living with him when he died, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there at home.
Some of the
There
girls
at
and
Hazel.
Dad was
Huh?
living in the home,
Yeah,
living in
Well-
the old timey home.
Nell, you know, we was born in the same house that Dad was
I know.
born in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But my mother said, you know, before she married Dad, said she remembered Grandpa Parish. And he'd come to church and he walked on a cane. We had the cane in the house.
Well, he was a deacon of the church there for years.
And they said that he would go to church and he must have had not arthritis, but lung trouble. Because Mama said he'd cough and cough and cough while he was in church. He might have had asthma or something. Anyway, she said she remembered him coughing a lot in church whenever about the time she married Dad, or maybe just before.
You remember Dad telling us about the time that he was, you know, they didn't have much to eat in the army a lot of the time. They'd go hungry, you know.
Mhm.
Well, there was a bunch of them coming up there, and they was cooking a horse that they had killed, and boy, they was starving. And he said that Grandpa, I remember Dad telling us, Grandpa come up there and they had one little old piece left, about that, he measured on his fingers, about like that. And he said, this quick as the blood kind of quit. He said, let me have it. He said, I'm starving. So he eat that little old piece of
Yeah, they
horse
said when
meat.
they'd cook it, VanZandt, they wouldn't even wait for it to get under because they're so
No,
hungry they'd
because
eat it
it's
with
the
the
hunger,
blood,
man. They
with
was,
the blood and everything, just all
boy,
dripping out
they
of
was
it.
hungry.
Because
Oh,
they were
they
just
hadn't
starving to
eaten.
death.
Don't tell them when, and they were just starved to death. Oh boy, I'll tell you.
Now, he's the one that had the offer to trade, what was that?
Well, he's riding that horse, you know. When the war was over, when he heard that the war was over, he's right there, the other side of Fort Worth, south of Fort Worth, and he come riding through there in a little log fort there by the river. This fella offered him 40 acres right down Main Street there to the depot for that horse and saddle. Grandpa told him, no, he says, I don't want to settle out here on this prairie. He said, I'm going to the sticks. So he settled out there at Hazel. Boy, he could, 40 acres right down through the heart of Fort Worth.
Mm.
Of course, there wasn't nothing there then but a
Really,
log
Fort
fort.
Worth
Oh, boy.
Wouldn't it have been interesting to talk to Granddad?
Oh, my goodness. Now, I wish.
Oh, we'd have
You
had more fun.
bet.
Cause we
Well,
just
we
loved
was
the
so
other
little.
Granddad if we'd seen that.
We was so little when we knew Granddaddy
Yeah,
Carter
we were
that we
little.
didn't get too much information. We got some, but
Yeah,
not as much as I wish we could have.
no, he was a good man, though.
Oh,
Carter.
you bet, you bet. He'd get out there and sing, you know, on the poor
Yeah.
single old religious song.
Did he farm? Was he a farmer or?
No,
He had gin.
he run a
baled
gin
cotton.
there. He
Had
run a gin there
and
at
And
eight.
baled cotton all the time.
And we used to. He had him a home over there, you know, at
Yeah,
7 acres.
We'd go visit
I know
him.
one day I went over there and that way in the summer, I don't know whether we was, I was a little old kid, but anyhow, he had potatoes out there. I've never seen the like of ours potatoes under the ground in my life. Boy, he had potatoes.
He was
Had him a
worker.
garden out there and oh boy.
He was a real worker.
He was living by himself, you know, and Mama, she'd get uneasy, you know, and send Pop over there to see about him. Oh
And
boy.
he'd come see us, and when he'd come, as soon as we saw him coming, we'd all go running. Grandpa, Grandpa, just run as hard as good to meet him, you know. And we had some kinfolks on Dad's side, and they saw we was a hollering Grandpa, Grandpa. They thought they'd do it too, and we got so mad at them. We said, "He's not your grandpa, he's our grandpa." We so mad at him, because they was running with us saying, "Grandpa, Grandpa." We turned around to him, says, "He's not your grandpa, he's ours." We was so mad at him.
Oh, we take care of our grandpa.
Oh, goodness.
Those
Oh.
damn skin folks, and we didn't want them to think that that was their grandpa too.
Pawpaw,
David,
oh, we're doing all right. We'll leave here in a little bit. Pawpaw was telling me you worked right along with the guys on the farm growing up.
I was
to
the only
pick
sister
and-
that made a man out of me whenever I was a girl. And that nearly got me to think that I was the only girl that I knew that worked in the field.
Yeah.
All my friends didn't work in the field. And I had worked right along with them.
she made a hand just like any
And Dad
man.
would brag on me. Of course, I'd work that much harder, but he bragged on me, so I'd do as well as the boys. And I'd pick cotton out of I think I picked 150 one day. Oh, he just bragged on me, you know, about such a good worker. So, of course, I nearly worked myself to death then to please him.
Yeah.
Oh.
I worked right alongside with him. I was a farmer for about 20 years.
Picked the cotton and
Yeah.
everything.
Did
Yeah,
everything.
corn and
Oh, I just hated
anything
it though.
was.
Oh, I thought, well, if I could only stay at home and wear real pretty clothes and just keep house and do things like that, like all of my friends could do, I think I'd be in heaven.
Well, did your sisters didn't?
No, Opal wouldn't work. Dad tried to get her to work, and she'd go out there and just poke around, wouldn't do anything. And he got tired of her trying to make her do something. And he said, well, you can stay at the house and do the housekeeping and the cooking. And so she got out of it that way.
Yeah.
And when Faye and Lenny came along, they were much younger,
Mhm.
and they had tractors and things, I think then, didn't they?
No, we
I
had.
don't guess we had tractors.
No, we didn't
But
have
anyway,
tractors. See, I was.
They never did work in the field though, not any of my
Uh-huh.
sisters, not any three of them.
No, they.
I was the only one that had to work in the field.
Yeah.
I worked right along by the side of the boys. And
She
boy, we
done-
worked too.
Hey, work. We'd get up with our crop,
We'd get up,
you
we'd go to
know,
work
Nelwyn, and then we'd hire out for 50 cents a day.
Yeah.
From
After
sun,
we'd work
it wasn't no
ourselves.
hour to it. It's from
After we'd
sun
work
till
ourselves to
sun.
death, working in our crops, then Dad said, well, maybe y'all can hire out for your neighbors and make you a little spending money. So we worked ourselves to death and made 50 cents a day hoeing cotton and all.
And I mean, long hours and those
Oh.
days, you know how long the sun shines and we worked, we
From
got off
sun
1
up to
hour at dinner.
sundown. Uh-huh.
We'd get under a shade tree and eat our dinner, what the ants didn't eat up for us. And then when 1 o'clock come, while we went to work, we worked till that sun.
Sun was
set.
down.
Yes, sir.
Y'all-
Then go home and do a lot of chores.
Yeah, you'd go and milk all the cows, and I'd go in and cook the supper and wash the
Oh.
dishes, After I worked all day in the field, I'd have to go home and cook the supper and wash the dishes
So,
and
So you-
finally get off to bed.
so y'all don't really understand when they call it the good old days, huh?
Except we
Yeah,
had a lot
we're-
of, except we did have a lot of happy times.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you know, people,
We had a lot of happy
David,
times.
people enjoyed living in those days. See, black people, they don't,
We were,
well, everything's done by the flip of your finger, that is the knob.
Mhm.
And we haven't got time hardly to turn around. We had plenty of time. Boy, we'd work like slaves, and yet
we'd
we
make ice cream
enjoyed.
at night and
Oh, Lord.
we had syrup cans, you know, in a big old wooden box, wooden
Bucket.
bucket. And we put our
Gallon bucket.
gallon bucket down in there and put ice all around it and
And
we'd
then
sit there and freeze
turn
it.
it like that.
Oh, we thought that was the grandest thing in the world, to have ice cream, you know.
Oh, boy.
Mm.
I was, we was happy.
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of good times.
Oh, we was
We'd
just happy.
popcorn.
Oh,
I remember,
yeah,
you know, some of
yeah.
the silly things we did. We used to pop popcorn, and we loved our dog, old Snip. And he'd eat, put food down on the floor and he'd eat it. So VanZandt and I decided we'd balk the dog, so we got us a pan, put our popcorn in it, and we went down on our knees and hands, just like the dog, you know, and ate out of the tin pan, so we kind of mocked the dog eating.
Oh, God.
I bet you don't remember that, do you?
No, I don't
Well, I
remember
do
that, but
See, I was,
no, I
I was
remember a lot of
about
things.
18 months older than him, so.
I remember a lot of things that we'd do and as kids. Oh, boy.